Hello, everybody. Hello. This is TPP. Welcome back to the channel. Please hit the like button and subscribe because we have content like this like every day or every other day. And I would appreciate it. We would appreciate it. Wow. So, the Cajun Navy report. The Cajun Navy report came out today. But we need to have an honest conversation today about narratives. We need to sit down and talk about what happens when an online narrative gets way out ahead of the physical facts. So recently, everybody was waiting on this Cajun Navy report. People were waiting on it. And regarding Nolan Wells' location, body, maybe they thought they would come up with something, to help with the investigation and to find out what happened on July 4th. People expected that report to be the silver bullet. I don't know how, but they expected it to be the silver bullet. They thought it was going to, wrap everything up in a neat little bow as to why Nolan was found on that northwest tip of the island in his blue swim trunks. So they wanted to clear up the timeline and give the public a final answer about what, when, and how. So, I'm holding the working analytical breakdown of the Cajun Navy media package that they put out, the report that they put out. And playing out the gate, the Cajun Navy did not advance the ball as to what happened to Nolan. And that's exactly why we're here, to figure out what the hell happened and what was the timeline. We aren't here to chase the internet cloud. We aren't here to validate the Facebook rumors or anything yet. And we sure as hell ain't here to give anybody a free pass just because this report got shared 1,000 times on social media. Tonight, what we should do is strip away all of the rhetoric and everything that people talk about. And these are the facts. The facts that the Cajun people came up with, the Cajun Navy came up with. Show you where the evidence actually leads. Expose a massive void that we still got. There's a massive hole after 4:30. It just is. Nobody knows what the hell happened after 4:30. Plain terms, why not a single person was present on the beach can be ruled out. It looks like hundreds and hundreds of people are there. And you mean to tell me one black person out of the speck of white people, and you mean to tell me nobody saw where he went, how he went, and what? So I'm speaking to you, somebody who was born and raised up north, and if there's one thing they know down south is talk is cheap, rumors spread too fast, reports get unverified, media screenshots. Right now, what they're trying to do is validate that tape, that CTO tape, trying to validate that. All of these people, all of these stars, all of these people can get people to authenticate that tape. The reason why the autopsy hasn't come out is because they're holding it for the grand jury. So the grand jury won't be tainted. All of this is going into the grand jury testimony. All the pictures, Nolan's autopsy, the lung report, the throat report, all of that has to go to the grand jury. And then the grand jury will come back with an indictment. If they come back with an indictment. They may not even come back with an indictment. But they have the enhanced audio. They have all the physical findings. They have all, the grand jury has all of that stuff, or either they're about to present it to the grand jury. Okay. Now, the Cajun Navy put a lot of work into this report. Nobody's denying that. They collected photos, they compiled social media posts, they pulled witness statements, and they tried to string it all together. They tried to string all of this together. The only way they can't get a timeline on anybody or anything is because somebody is keeping their mouth shut. That's the only reason why there's nobody that has come forward with a timeline to help bridge the gap between that 4:30 and, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock, because people are keeping their mouth closed. People are seeing stuff, or not seeing stuff they're supposed to see, not paying attention. There's no way that he disappeared with all of those people on that island. There's no way he just disappeared. So they pulled together all those witness statements and they tried to string it all together. But when you strip away the hype and lay the timeline side by side with the analytical standard, they didn't close the gap. The gaps were too big. The gaps in his time, the gaps in people's timelines are too big. They didn't resolve a single conflicting story. They didn't produce a continuous, independently verified record of what happened on the water that afternoon. They didn't. All they did was take the exact same puzzle pieces that were already floating around on the internet, TikTok and Facebook and whatever, and rearrange them on the table. This analytical report that the Cajun Navy came up with, it does something complete. It does something completely different. I don't think it didn't move the ball. It doesn't pretend to solve the case. It doesn't hand you a bedtime story to make you feel good about it. What it does is lay out the evidence just very plainly, cleanly, so ruthlessly that it makes the remaining holes impossible to ignore. There are holes that people are not filling about what happened. It didn't find one single smoking gun. It found several pieces of scattered shot puzzles, but some of the puzzles fit, some of the puzzles didn't. And the most critical stretch of time on the island is still a void, which tells me people know what happened. They're just not saying anything. I just don't understand. They're just not saying anything. That's the only conclusion I can come up with. They're just not saying anything. Okay, this was the wait a minute, where was that first timeline? Okay. That first picture was the boats. Were the boats. The first thing this analysis did was look at the geospatial coordinates, the GPS data. It took the official search data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, okay, and logged it in and compared it directly to a separate map ping that had been circulating among the independent researchers. So when you run the math and you convert those coordinates, do you know how far apart the 2 points are? About 5 feet. So 5 feet. In GPS terms on open water, that's essentially the same spot. Now, why in the world does that matter to you and me? Because in any serious investigation, one of the first moves defense attorneys or critics make is to attack the baseline of the story. They try to claim law enforcement was searching in the wrong country or county or the wrong bayou or the wrong side of the island. They try to say the whole search was flawed from day one because the starting line was wrong. These findings, they have the exact findings, takes the argument completely off the table. It proves that the search area that they searched for Nolan wasn't pulled out of thin air. It was anchored directly at the original vessel GPS data. But let's be clear about what this does not do. It does not tell us what happened at those coordinates, at that location. It does not tell us who was at that location. It does not tell us who was standing on the deck of any boat at 1800 hours. It simply confirms that investigators are working off the right table, the right timeline. You can't solve a jigsaw puzzle if you're putting pieces together on the wrong furniture. And at least now we know the table is solid. This is where it happened. Whatever happened within these coordinates, right? What's the picture number? The picture's number 2. I'm just showing the pictures, right? This is where the water starts to get a little murky and where people start making dangerous assumptions. This analysis took a hard look at the photos and stills of that day throughout the afternoon on Horn Island. And the visual record proves one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt. The boats moved from time to time. Boats 1, boat X2, and 3. The boats did not stay in one place. Earlier, you can see in the first video, or first timeline, you can see that boats 1, 2, and 3 were together with X in between 1 and 2, where it's right between boat 1 and 2. Okay. Then you look at a later timeline, still taken from what people are calling the fight video. And guess what? Boat X is not in the fight video. It vanishes from that cluster of boats because 4 boats tied themselves together. Boat 1, 2, and 3, and boat X. They were tied together on that island. Okay. And later on in photos, it shows that boat X had moved from within that square, that cluster of boats. Then you look at the photo that was taken at 4:50, Frontier Bay, the boat called Frontier Bay. The boat labeled as number 2, it's number 2, is no longer in its original position near the cluster of boats either. It shifted positions along the shoreline too. Now, why are we stressing this? Because boats don't move themselves, right? Outboard motors, don't crank themselves up. Anchors don't pull themselves up. Hulls don't drift across the current into a brand new configuration without intervention. So people move their boats all along. Nolan could have been in the water, got hit by one of the boats, drowned, fell off into a murky, any number of things. So who knows? Drop the anchor, pull the anchor up, and something happened. Boats don't move themselves. So when a boat moves between 2 photographic checkpoints, right, which these boats did, they move between checkpoints. That's considered a data point. It means human beings were active on those vessels during the exact window Nolan went missing. And this brings me to the most important point I'm not able to make. This report does not rule anybody out. It doesn't rule anybody out. I hear internet people saying, well, the boat X wasn't in the later photos, so they must have already left and had nothing to do with it. That boat already left, so they had left the island. So it might not have nothing to do with it. Or Frontier Bay moved over here, so they in the clear. That's not how analytical investigation works. Just because a vessel moved or just because a vessel is missing from a secondary photo does not exonerate those people that were on that boat. It raises more questions, not fewer questions. Who was on boat X when it shifted? Why did it pull out of the cluster of boats that it was in? They were tied together. Why did it untie itself and move? Where did it go between the first picture and the second picture? Did it move 100 yards down the beach or did it leave the island totally? Who authorized Front Bay to move at 4:50? That was Frontier Bay. I think that was a boat that Nolan arrived on. No, he arrived on the Triton. I'm sorry. Until you have the actual human beings who operated these vessels under oath, giving minute-to-minute accounts that match raw electronic data, every single person in that cluster or group of people remain part of the equation, are suspect. Okay? Don't let nobody tell you that a missing boat in a picture means that they were gone or they were clear. That doesn't mean that. It raises even more questions. It means an unverified movement must be investigated. So you go to the third picture. Video, this is screen clock in a gray area. Okay. The report analyzed 2 critical vertical videos derived from the social media. Let me see, what is that? I think it's one of these videos right here. Okay, hold on. One of these videos, right? The report analyzed two critical vertical videos derived from social media screen recording. One video shows an on-screen phone clock saying 3:23. One of these clocks in this video says 3:23. The second video shows an on-screen clock reading 4:27. I'm not sure which one it is. Is it it may be this one, or it may be the next one, or wait a minute, I'm not sure. But it could be this one. It could be one of them. It could be that one. It could be that one. But one of those sets of photos shows the clock timeline. One was 3:23, one was 4:27. Now, if that 4:27 video is authentic, it's a potentially huge development. Why? Because the boat Nolan arrived on, the Triton, is asserted to have departed Horn Island at 4:31. If a video taken at 4:27 shows the anchorage, the boats, and the people on the beach 4 minutes before departure, that visual frame gives you an almost exact snapshot of the pre-departure environment, what was going on before they left. But here's the catch, and it's massive to catch. Those files provided to analysts were screen recordings of someone else's phone. When you screen record a video on an iPhone or an Android, the clock at the top of the screen shows the time you made the recording, not necessarily the time the original video was filmed on the beach. The report explicitly warns us, without the original first-generational digital media file, you cannot authenticate or treat that 4:27 as the true camera timestamp of the event. So you can't say that they were gone at 4:27. You can't say they were there at 4:27. Think about how dangerous that is. If the internet builds an entire story around a video believing it was filmed at 4:27, but it really was somebody was just screen recording an old video at 4:27 while sitting on their couch 3 days later, your whole timeline is thrown off. That's why it's very important for people to come forward and say what they've seen at what time, if they could authenticate something. This is why we talk about the authentication. A video is only as reliable as the digital footprint behind it, right? Until investigators get a hold of the original file that came off the lens of that camera, these recordings sit in a gray area. They are clues, but they're not proven timestamps. Okay. Where do we get to? Let's go again. Something else. Move on to the Facebook conflict, right? Look at the sequence. A man named Matthew Lamp posts on social media claiming one of his passengers was pretty certain they saw a group almost fighting around 5 o'clock, and that a Bertram with a blue top tore out of there right after. A boat flew the hell out of there right after that, after the fight. Immediately, the internet explodes. Nolan was in a fight at 5 o'clock. But look at what happens next. A woman named Melissa steps right up in the comments and says, "You're dead wrong. That was not Nolan. That was a completely different young man who was in our group, and we were standing right there talking to them." The analytical report doesn't take side. It doesn't say Matthew is lying. It doesn't say Melissa is lying. What it does say is pure logic. When two witnesses directly contradict each other on the identity of a person, that statement cannot be treated as confirmed sighting of Nolan Wells. Period. In the story. You can't build a legal or investigative timeline on a secondhand, pretty sure comment when the person standing on the sandbar said, "You got the wrong guy." And that brings me directly to the finding number 5. And this one was nuts. So for weeks, the public narrative has revolved around the idea that the Triton, the boat that Nolan arrived on, started taking on water, causing panic or forcing a sudden departure. Everybody talks about the water ingress like it's an established, proven fact. Do you know what this analytical report found after reviewing every single photo, video, screenshot, and document supplied? Unresolved. Zero proof. Not one photograph, not one frame of video, not one piece of verified documentation in the entire package of photos and videos that they got proves when that Triton started taking on water or why it started taking on water. They don't have one solid proof. The Cajun Navy said they don't know, ain't nobody proved to them that they were even having a problem with a bilge pump. The central pillar of the public narrative, the idea that the boat was sinking or taking on water at a specific minute, is not backed up by the single piece of visual or physical evidence in this record. Anybody telling you they know the exact minute the Triton's bilge pump failed or when the deck went under is making it up. They're guessing. And when you build an investigative theory on a guess, the whole house of cards falls apart the second the real evidence shows up. So that brings us to the finding number 6, the big one, the absolute core of this entire report that they made. After analyzing the coordinates, the moving boats, the unauthenticated videos, the fighting rumors, and the water ingress mystery, the report reaches an inexplicable conclusion. There's no continuous, independently verified record showing what happened between Nolan's last corroborated sighting and the asserted 4:31 p.m. departure of the Triton. You got visual noise around 3:23. You got an unauthenticated screen clock at 4:27. You got an asserted boat departure. Asserted. We don't know whether that was true that they left at 4:30 or not. There's no corroborating evidence. That's what they're saying. We don't know whether you guys were lying that y'all left at 4:30 or not. It's an assertion that they left at 4:30. And you got a gaping hole right in the middle of all of that. Everything that matters, every conversation, every conflict, every vessel, movement, every decision made on that sandbar is inside that missing window. So the question becomes, how do they fill the gap? How do the investigators actually solve this? The report doesn't just complain about the missing pieces. It gives us the exact roadmap for how law enforcement and forensic analysts can get to the truth. Here's what needs to happen right now. They need to get all the metadata. Stop looking at Facebook screenshots. Investigators need the first generational digital files directly off the original phone that filmed those videos. We need the raw, QuickTime metadata. That metadata will tell us the exact second the camera shutter opened, the GPS coordinates of the phone taking the video, and whether that file was altered. They need to subpoena the hard vessel electronics. Boats are packed with computers. We don't need to rely on people's bad memories or drunk recollections from the 4th of July. We need the chart plotter, GPS tracks, and breadcrumb trails from the Triton, Palm Beach, and Frontier Bay boats. We need the engine ECU logs, which record exact engine RPMs, start-stop timestamps, and thermal data. We need the bilge pump electronic logs. And an automatic bilge pump draws current when it turns on. If the Triton took on water, the onboard electrical history will show the exact minute the pump drew power. 3, you need to build a separate occupant by occupant matrix. Every single person who was on boat 1, 2, 3, boat X, Palm Beach, and Triton needs to be interviewed separately. No group interviews where people can align their stories. Put them in separate rooms, hand them a map on the sandbar, and make them draw vessel positions at 15-minute intervals. Then compare their drawings against the hard metadata from those photos. Number 4, they need the forensic hull and visual matching. Use the physical features visible in the background of these wide panoramic shots, rub rails, T-top geometry, outboard motor casing decals, flag mounts, console layouts to definitively match every unlabeled vessel in those videos to a registered owner, and then go talk to that registered owner. So we leave you with this. The Cajun Navy tried to build a timeline, but all they did was polish up existing internet noise. This analytical report didn't claim to solve the case either, but it did something far more valuable. It exposed that void that we keep finding. There's a void between when they saw Nolan and when he was last reported seen. When he was last seen, there's a void. Nobody is telling them what happened in that void. And that tells me if nobody knows what happened to Nolan, and it's all these people around at 4:30, all of these people are around at 4:30. That's what people don't get. All of those people that you see out there, you see all them people out there right now. You see all them people on the boat. Okay? You see all these people on the boat. Okay? All them people out there on their boats. Not now one of them people know what happened to Nolan or understand where Nolan went to after 4:30. The Cajun Navy tried to piece together a timeline, but all they did was make it more obvious that we got a hole in their thought. Somebody's lying. That's the whole point. They're lying. Somebody saw Nolan. Don't let nobody tell you this case is closed. Don't let nobody tell you that certain people are cleared just because their boat isn't visible in a 4:50 p.m. picture timeline. Nobody is ruled out. Nobody can be ruled out. Every single person who was anchored on that island during that critical afternoon remains part of this story until hard electronic data proves otherwise. You don't need more internet sleuths. We don't need more secondhand rumors about 5 p.m. fights. We need primary data from those sources that I told you. We need native video files, engine computer dumps, charter plotter tracks. The honest answers about what happened in those missing minutes before 4:30 p.m. Until those hard electronic facts are put on the table, some of that hard fact is that 911 CTO call. That's a part of the hard data, that CTO call. Okay? That timeline remains wide open, and we got to keep demanding the truth until that hole is filled. All those people on that island, and not now one of y'all know what happened to Nolan. None of y'all saw him. None of y'all picked him up. None of y'all put him on y'all boat. Not now one of y'all. Not nobody. That's hard to believe. That's hard to believe. Because even if his friends left, just for example, his friends left, and they just left. They didn't know what happened to Nolan. Nolan stayed on the island. Them other people that's on that island, somebody on that island know what happened to him. Even if his friends don't know what happened to him, somebody on that island that was left over knows what happened to him. You understand? Somebody knows what happened to him. Okay? It couldn't very well, his friends could have very well just left him, and it could have been just that. But somebody else was on that island. As you can see, all of those people on that freaking island. All these people on that damn boat. All these people. All them people out there. All of them people out there. Now one person know what happened to him? Not one? That's the whole thing. Because they can't find, because nobody has come forward to fill the gap, that tells me they're deliberately keeping a gap open because something happened to Nolan and more than one person knows about it. That's the only way that we would have this big of a gap in the timeline between where Nolan was and where he wasn't. And people keep saying, well, he was the only black person on that. He wasn't the only black person, but I'm pretty sure somebody would have kept an eye on black people on that island somehow, some way. They would have seen a lone dude walking off by himself. So you just gotta find the person. That's why they offered the reward. That's why the reward is being offered. People come forward and say what they know. Come forward. Something happened. Tell. Open your mouth. Stop being scared. Open your mouth and say something. That's why they have a reward, because somebody on the island saw something. That's the whole shebang. Somebody on that island saw something. Thank you, Mr. Walker. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Buying rotisserie. Oh, you did? No, you didn't. You didn't see me buying no rotisserie chicken or no Dr. Pepper. Not me. Not me. I appreciate you, Mr. Walker. I appreciate the $2. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So this is the timeline that we're looking at, right? We're looking at a timeline. They can't verify the timeline, which tells me somebody's lying about what's going on. So we just got to be diligent, keep on top of this story. Hopefully somebody says something. Hopefully somebody comes forward. Hopefully somebody is willing to tell the truth about it. There's a reward. My thing is this, it's a reward, but then everybody would know that you snitched. If it was a snitching scenario, everybody would know that you snitched. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to come out of their pocket and say something about this, but we're going to keep our eye on everything. We're going to keep our eye on everything because we're going to find out what happened to that boy. And it may not have been his so-called friends. It may not have been them. It could have been any number of things, but it's too many people on that island for them somebody not to have some idea what's going on. So please hit that like and that subscribe button. Please and thank you. If you like the content, appreciate the content, and I'll be back sometime tomorrow. Definitely will. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. I do.